A cat can fall from a building, twist in mid-air, spread its body like a parachute and survive. But the famous claim that higher is safer is wrong. That claim has lived on the internet for decades, repeated in comment sections and trivia books as though it was settled science. And the kernel of truth buried inside it, that cats do survive falls that would kill most animals their size, is genuinely remarkable. But the story of how they do it, and what the largest body of evidence actually tells us about the outcome, is more complicated, more sobering, and far more interesting than the myth lets on. Imagine you are standing in your apartment on a warm afternoon. The window is open a few inches because it has been open every day for years and nothing has ever happened. Your cat is on the sill, watching pigeons, the way cats do, utterly absorbed, tail twitching. Then your phone rings, you look away for 3 seconds, and when you look back, the sill is empty. You run to the window.
Nothing visible on the pavement below, which, for a fraction of a second, feels like hope. And then you are running down the stairs with your keys already in your hand, and every step is a negotiation with the worst version of what you are about to find. That moment, the running, the not knowing, the physics of your love for a small dependent creature collapsing into the seconds it takes to reach the ground floor. That moment is where this science lives. Not in a laboratory, in a stairwell. So what actually happens during those seconds the cat is in the air? The first thing that happens is not a choice. It is a reflex so fast that conscious experience plays no part in it at all. Cats possess what physiologists call a righting reflex, an automatic response mediated by the vestibular system in the inner ear that begins operating within the first fraction of a second of free fall.
The vestibular apparatus detects the sudden loss of ground contact and the disorientation of the body relative to gravity, and it immediately begins coordinating a sequence of rotations designed to reorient the animal so that its feet face downward. This is not magic. It is the product of millions of years of evolution in an animal that hunts from heights and sometimes falls from them. The reflex begins at the head. The cat rotates its head first to find the horizon, to establish which way is down. Then the spine follows, in a coordinated sequence that divides the body roughly into front and back halves, rotating in opposite directions simultaneously, which gets around the physical law that would otherwise prevent a free-floating body from changing its orientation without pushing off something. Cats have extraordinarily flexible spines compared to most mammals of similar size. A loosely articulated backbone with a greatly reduced collarbone that allows their shoulders to rotate through a range of motion that a human shoulder cannot approach. That flexibility is not incidental. It is the mechanical engine of the righting sequence. The front half of the body can rotate independently of the rear half, allowing the overall rotation to proceed without violating the conservation of angular momentum. Within roughly half a second, in most circumstances, the cat has gone from tumbling to facing downward. It has not yet done anything to slow its descent. That comes next. As the cat reaches a stable feet-down orientation, it begins to spread its limbs outward and flatten its body. This posture does two things at once. First, it increases the cat's surface area relative to its body mass, which increases aerodynamic drag and reduces the terminal velocity the cat eventually reaches. Terminal velocity is the speed at which the downward pull of gravity is exactly balanced by the upward drag of air resistance, the point at which acceleration stops and the fall continues at a constant speed. For a human adult, terminal velocity in a spread eagle position is around 50 to 60 meters per second. For a cat with its body spread and limbs extended, the terminal velocity is considerably lower, owing to the animal's relatively high surface area to body mass ratio. A smaller, lighter animal with relatively long limbs falls more slowly than a large, heavy one. This is the same principle that makes a parachute work, applied by evolution to a 4-kilogram predator falling through urban air. There is a further consequence of reaching terminal velocity that may matter for survival, though researchers are careful to describe it as a plausible mechanism rather than a proven guarantee. Once the cat stops accelerating, the sensation of acceleration disappears.
Some researchers have hypothesized that when acceleration ceases, the cat may relax its muscles to some degree, and that a relaxed body absorbs impact forces differently than a rigid one. A rigid limb transmits force directly through bones and joints. A relaxed, slightly bent limb can absorb some of that force through muscular deformation before it reaches the skeleton. Whether this happens consistently and to what degree it matters across different fall heights and different individual animals is genuinely uncertain. What is not uncertain is that the posture the cat adopts, spread, flat, limbs out, distributes the impact across a larger portion of the body surface when the animal finally lands, rather than concentrating it through two front paws or a single point of contact. All of this is real. The riding reflex is real. The terminal velocity advantage is real. The flexible spine is real. The impact distribution is real.
These are legitimate physical and physiological mechanisms that set cats apart from most mammals of their size when it comes to surviving falls from height. And yet none of them are guarantees. None of them make any individual fall safe. And here is where the largest and most rigorous evidence we have forces us to confront the gap between what the mechanism suggests and what the data show. A study published in 2025 reviewed the outcomes of 125 cases of what veterinarians call feline high-rise syndrome. Cats brought to veterinary facilities after falling from elevated locations. Across the cases where outcome data were available, the survival rate was 86.7%. That number sounds extraordinary, and in some sense it is. An animal surviving a fall from a multi-story building at a rate approaching 9 in 10 is not what you would predict for most mammals.
The writing reflex and its associated mechanisms are doing real work. But the study found something else that matters enormously. Injury severity increased with fall height. The higher the fall, the worse the injuries tended to be. This directly contradicts the version of the story you may have heard, the one that claims cats somehow become safer as falls get higher. That beyond a certain number of floors, the situation paradoxically improves. That claim originated from a small, older study, whose methodology and sample size could not support the conclusion people drew from it.
The larger, more recent evidence does not support it. More height means more kinetic energy at impact. More kinetic energy means more potential for injury. The cat's remarkable biology shifts the outcome curve in a favorable direction compared to what it would otherwise be, but it does not reverse the underlying physics. This matters because the myth of the safer high fall is not merely an interesting factual error, it is a myth with consequences. If a person believes that higher falls are actually less dangerous for cats, that belief can influence decisions about windows, about screens, about how carefully a balcony door gets closed on a warm evening. The science should push behavior in one direction only, and that direction is prevention. 86.7% survival sounds high, until you sit with the other number, the 13.3%. And until you consider that the 86.7% includes animals with serious internal injuries, fractured bones, pulmonary contusions, jaw trauma, and other wounds that required significant veterinary intervention. Surviving is not the same as falling safely. The cats in these studies were brought to veterinary facilities. They received care. Many of them survived because of that care. And the ones who were not brought in or who did not survive the fall itself are not in the dataset at all. The 86.7% is a testament to feline biology and to veterinary medicine simultaneously. And pulling those two contributions apart requires more data than we currently have. So why does a cat survive a fall that would almost certainly kill you?
Because evolution built into this animal a set of mechanisms. A lightning-fast riding reflex, a uniquely flexible spine, a body shape that reaches a lower terminal velocity than you do, and an impact posture that spreads force across more of the body. that together shift the survival odds in ways that are genuinely remarkable. Not guaranteed, not reversible with greater height, but real and measurable and beautiful in the specifically unsentimental way that evolutionary biology tends to be beautiful. The question we started with was whether the higher is safer claim could possibly be true. It cannot. The data are now large enough and careful enough to say that clearly.
What is true is that cats survive high-rise falls at rates that would have seemed implausible before anyone studied the mechanisms. And that those mechanisms are worth understanding, both because they tell us something profound about the relationship between physics and biology, and because understanding them correctly, rather than through the distorting lens of the myth, is the thing most likely to keep a cat alive. Not by falling, by not falling. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you might be wondering about other animals that seem to defy the relationship between gravity and injury. The physics that gives a cat its edge over freefall turns out to share surprising territory with why certain very small creatures, insects, spiders, even some rodents, survive drops that are extraordinary relative to their size. That relationship between body size, terminal velocity, and survival is its own story, and it starts with a number so counterintuitive, it sounds made up.